Hello YouTube and welcome back to the channel outside the target demographic. Today I'm going to be doing the one part of the car I haven't yet, and that is the trunk. Let's get started. So in the Subaru Forester trunk we have a smuggler storage. It's maybe a foot deep with a donut spare. And I did put some material in here. It's not adhesive or anything like that. I figured it may help. Who knows? But we're going to go ahead and take out all the panels. We're going to do the floor as best we can. I still have some of the Noico matting. Again, the box comes with 10 sheets. I believe I have 2.5 left at this point. And I bought a second box. I didn't know how much I would need. The remainder I can use on the wife's car just by doing the doors so far. Let's see. I've done all 4 doors, the trunk, the hood, and a little bit on the engine bay side of the firewall. And it has made a noticeable difference. With an app on my phone, as accurate and precise as that is not, I'm seeing an average of 2 decibels less noise throughout the average volume spectrum. The max volume was down by 3 decibels and the lowest volume was down by 7 decibels. So it has made a substantial difference, both objectively with the, again, totally, completely inaccurate, probably free app on the phone, as well as what I've noticed driving. So we do have a big old echo chamber in here. We're going to address this as best we can. If I'm feeling extra squirrely, I'm going to go ahead and try popping off these guys and doing the panels, but at very least, we're going to knock this out. So a tip for the video, I carry a reflective vest on the off chance that I'll need it. Usually I've helped other people on the side of the road at night. I haven't had any issues recently, knock on wood. I also have a lantern that I hang on the seat release. So 1, I know where the seat release is. 2, I can light up my trunk space. And 3, I can just pop this off and use it. This is a white light and a red light, so I can use it as a marker as well as for being able to light the way. Underneath this are 3 AA batteries. I put a strip of plastic under those battery contacts, so it will not turn on by itself. It will not turn on accidentally. And more importantly, I won't have to remember to turn it off. Great way to preserve the batteries there. What I'm going to be doing is using my new tool. We're going to pry this guy off, all 4 of those, get these off, see exactly what we're working with, get this tire up out. We're going to apply a little bit of the Noico padding, and then since I'm here for the first time, I'm going to be using the Siless noise insulator. So what we've been doing up until this point is the Noico, again, self-admitted amateur. As far as I would understand it, and I would explain it to you, is the Noico will get rid of the ability for the metal to create its own and transmit any existing ambient noise. The Siless material, I would say, is more like putting on earmuffs. So there is noise around you, but the Siless will act as an insulator versus an isolator. So it's going to insulate the cabin from the sound, while the Noico will isolate that noise and prevent it from going any further than it is, if that makes sense at all. So let's go ahead and get these popped off, see what we're dealing with, and make us some decent changes back here. All right, so much vacuuming later, and we got this cleaned out pretty well. While we're in here, we're going to go ahead and clean up the plastics as well. But speaking of wells, as you can tell in this well, this is the wheel well, which is the well that we're talking about. And in this well, it's quite loud. So what I plan on doing is getting a rubber spray foam noise deadener that I'm going to use to spray up under the plastic liner. So I'm not super concerned about that. I can put a little piece right here. I am going to try and get a little bit better on the inside of there. But for now, Underneath this guy is a plastic cowl that runs left to right, covering up all those cables. Went ahead and removed that. There was nothing here except for the foam that you just saw. Basically what we're gonna do is if you take your roller or your pry tool and tap, it's not how loud it is as much as how like tinny it is or how resonant. So let's see. Okay, so we have versus, you can tell that's quite hollow. That's okay. That bong, 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 bong. So this arch seems okay. That honestly seems all right. That's okay, but that's quite echoey. So I'm gonna make sure that I put maybe 4 pieces. We'll see, maybe 3 there. Definitely a piece right there. That's nice and you can see there's probably some screws or bolts or something holding this directly onto the frame. So that sounds nice and solid. That does not. That does not. That does. So I'm less concerned about this. I'm gonna definitely hit here, here, up there. That's kind of tinny. Let me see. Yep, less so. So I'm less concerned about that. We are gonna hit 1 piece, 2 piece. Okay, so we know what we have to do, and we only have to do about 30% of the surface area with the Noico. I'm hoping to cover all of this with the Siless, but I mean, even just that patch there, there, here. So maybe even only 1 sheet. So again, we have our before. And we will do an after. So at this point, we only have 4 strips. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you listen, so that's much more tinny, and you'll hear it better here. So let me lock you down. So it's tong tong tong, ting ting ting, tong tong tong, ting ting ting. I don't know how well the cell phone microphone is picking that up, but it's quite a bit better on the half of the car that I've done. So even with just that small amount, it's already retarding the sound. It's attenuating it. So I'm going to add more strips. At this point, 10 a box of 10 probably won't do the entirety of your car if you have a sexy station wagon like I do. So plan accordingly. The box 10 sheets is like 25 bucks. So, oh no, you're in for 50. The price of a tank of gas for a substantially quieter ride, which you will be enjoying every time you're using gas in your car. So let's go ahead and shore this up. I'm going to try and remain on this side so we have something to compare it to. All right, so I believe we added this one, that one, that one. I wish this would stay up. That would be more conducive to my video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow this to free flow, right? And I'm going to so again, it is loud, but it's not vibrating. So definitely a difference between them. I don't know how well the mic is picking it up. Once you put everything else in here, especially the tire, which is, made of rubber, going to help eat up a little bit of vibrations as well. And we're still going to put the Siless on here. But even just this amount, there's a lot of videos they'll show the entire thing is done, and you can do that, but you're going to run into diminishing returns. So When you go outside, you can throw on a jacket and, you know, boots, right? Or you could put on boots and socks over those socks and gloves with gloves inside them, and then motorcycle helmet and blah, blah, blah. Is that going to keep you more insulated from the cold? Absolutely. Is it worth the cost and the price and the lack of ability to move around and blah, blah, blah? Arguably, probably not. Of course, for me, I'm outside in shorts as I shovel the drive anyways. But all that to say, it only takes, I believe even Noico says, 30% coverage. So don't anticipate spending too much time or money or resources on getting a pronounced sound difference. So basically, I just went around and tried to hit until I found places that were more tinny than other ones, and I just put little strips. From what I've seen, I would say it's better to do strips than patches. I do have some wiring harnesses there, which kind of make putting strips of any kind of length a little more difficult. And then I try and cover, like, this is 1, 2, 3, 4 different surfaces, right? So I try and put it there as best I can. We do have some flats here, but I made sure to cover a couple different elevation changes. What I will suggest to you is, again, I put these on my hot engine. Not on the engine, sorry, on the hot air conditioning lines, the coolant lines, as well as the air intake. So both of those are slightly warmer than the ambient temperature we have here in Ohio right now. So that makes them very malleable, which makes applying them much easier. Also makes cutting them easier. And it also makes cleaning the knife that you use to cut it with much easier. Also, speaking of knife and cutting, these edges become razor sharp. This metal is not like aluminum foil. It's almost like, I think it's aluminum tape, some kind of higher grade than duct tape. But it's a very, very thin, but maintains its shape and its jaggedness. So be mindful as you're applying it. With the roller, it will be less of an issue, but if you were to like drag your finger along it before you had rolled it flat, you'll probably bring it up to 1 or 2 lacerations. Focus. Show them my pain. Yeah, you could kind of see it there. Screw you, phone. So that's what we got. I think we're good there. I'm going to go ahead and re-clean again. And I'm going to start trying to apply the Siless, let's see, the Siless matting. Now this stuff kind of maintains its shape. It does have some squares on the back, which is nice. I've shown in another video, but I will do it again. Let's say I want to make this shape. All I can do, or all I have to do, this is aluminum foil out of the kitchen with some painter's tape. And all I have to do is fold it over on itself twice. This is much easier with 2 hands. But I can use this as a perpetual mold. And now I have the angle that I'm going to need to cut, which is going to be much easier and faster than getting out a tape measure or cutting, reapplying, cutting, reapplying, cutting, reapplying. So I can use this to press fit into various shapes that I need. And then I can take this over to the matting and cut it to shape. So don't know if I'll be using that. Wanted to pass that along. Mine seems relatively straightforward. So let's go ahead and start with the simpler, relatively flat portions first. Then we'll do some curvature. Once I'm familiar with the material, we can start applying a little bit more up there. All right, so the first sheet is applied, and I'll have to clean this out a little better. Basically, just push it down into place, get it as close up to that surface as you can. Use the roller to roll it. Does seem to shred pretty easily. This is a weld, so it was kind of serrated anyways, but keep that in mind. Maybe not so aggressive as we continue. But let's do... It's already making quite a difference. It will help in retarding the metal from making noise, but essentially if the noise were coming from the underside, the outside, the road noise, water, gravel, salt, snow, all that being thrown up against your underbody, this is going to help insulate the heat and the sound. So let us continue. So this took maybe 45 minutes. Put on your favorite podcast and climb on in. I was able to use the same tool that popped up the, I don't really have any installed, but the panel holders. And I was able to pop up the wiring harness anchors, mounts. And the nice thing is I didn't have to cut a hole in it like I did for these guys. All you have to do is the wire has a memory to it. So if I were to stretch it and let it go, it returns back to essentially where it needs to be. And I was able to just start pushing around and playing Battleship until I found the hole and then punched it through. And now not only are those back in the hole, but now the material is under the wires and it's not going to vibrate and transmit any kind of friction or rubbing from that. So not so bad. The material is quite sticky on your hands. The nice thing is the adhesive will stick to you and just leave a small layer. And if you just roll it around in your fingers, it'll turn into a ball and just drop. So clean up, not so difficult. I don't necessarily have to wear gloves. I covered the grand majority of it. And where did I put the resonator? So nice. Wow. A little bit of resonance down here. I am going to end up putting, let's see, these foam mats back in there. Nice thick foam, waterproof. I keep them in the car with a couple of 2x4s and some wood boards so I can fashion something for the roof, or we have something for if we pick up something off the side of the road or go to Facebook Marketplace and pick up an item. If it's fragile, this is kind of shock absorption and it's waterproof. So better to have the material serve some purposes by being in your car ready for use, and it's sound absorption for when they're not being used. But that is what I have for today. We are very quickly losing the light. So now I know how this material works. I can go ahead and start applying it in better places. This is kind of a thinner material for more money. The box, I believe, was $70. I have used possibly a third of the sheets. So I have a couple of other options for some much thicker material, and I think I'm definitely going to use that for the ceiling if the what do they call that, headliner is wide enough, has enough space up there. Those of you who have viewed the channel know that I have the same policy with heat as I have with mosquitoes: destroy with extreme prejudice. So if I can insulate my roof, that's going to keep the majority of the heat out, says I. And I imagine that there's quite a bit of noise coming off of the roof when it rains and snows and all that. So I am going to hopefully get to that. I can do each one of the pillars easily enough with this material. It's thin enough. I feel like in here I can use the heavy stuff. I really don't want to load down the struts on this, so I think I'm going to be doing the trunk next. And then lastly, because this is some thinner, probably higher grade quality stuff, I'm going to try doing at very least the driver and passenger side floorboards. The majority of the noise I'm hearing now is from the wheel wells, which again is going to be addressed with the spray-in plastic liner, foam liner that I'm going to be purchasing, and also the engine. So if I can use this material that's relatively thin, lift the carpet up out of the cabin, put down the Noico noise deadener, and then cover it with this. Hopefully it's only going to shim the carpet the least littlest bit versus having a much thicker foam that's going to start augmenting and putting the original carpeting a little bit more difficult. So I think that is where we are. So let me go ahead and put this trunk back together. And that's all I got for this video. So relatively simple, honestly, today doing this whole trunk section. If I wasn't recording, maybe an hour and a half, since mine is again, sexy station wagon. I have all the space. I took one of those rubber mats, put it in here, and then took off my shoes, stepped right up into it, and that allowed me to get deeper in here. I was able to sit quite comfortably. The roof is rather tall compared to a sedan, and able to do the more fine-tuning, minute work around these awkward edges and shapes by getting in there instead of having to lean all the way in there. So pretty simple. I imagine I'm going to be receiving a pretty big return on investment. And the trunk is cleaner anyways because the vacuum was employed. So that's all we got. As always, this is outside the target demographic. I appreciate any questions, comments, and concerns being left in the comments section below. I freely admit, as I said, I am an amateur at this, so if I've done something wrong, go ahead and let me know. If I've taught you something, go ahead and let me know. Appreciate you guys' feedback. I will catch you guys in the next video.